Please repeat. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udiraye nashta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki krishnaya vasudevaya devaki nandanaya cha nanda gopa kumaraya govindaya namo namah. Hare Krishna. Welcome you all to the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam study. So today we'll be actually studying the last chapter of second canto, which is titled Bhagavatam is Answer to All the Questions. And the last chapter was, if somebody remember what we discussed, what was the prominent thing that we discussed in the last chapter?
Parikshit Maharaj just questioning to the Vyasa.
Shukdev Goswami.
Answers.
There were 6 verses.
Yes.
Sorry, Chaturshloka.
There were 6 verses, which contains the summary of the entire Bhagavatam.
Yes.
Which Lord Brahma then told Shri Narada to now expand upon.
Yes.
And thus it was given to Vedavyasa and thus to Shukdev Goswami.
Yes, very good, Kiran. But there are actually 4 verses. So, but everything what you said is absolutely right. So, Chatur Shloki, that's why it's called Chatur Shloki. So, Shukdev Goswami was answering to Parikshit Maharaj's question and he was citing the example of Brahmaji. The most important thing that we always remember is Parampara. We speak in the Parampara, we follow what the previous Acharyas have done. Right? That is the greatest protection because it has all come from the Supreme Absolute Truth. Once in America, Srila Prabhupada was lecturing and some new devotees came. They had no idea. But one thing that they liked about the lecture is they said, here is somebody who can relate it to absolute truth. Because Prabhupada said everything that we are speaking has come from the absolute truth. So that really got them connected. That here is somebody who's talking about the direct from the source, absolute truth, the supreme truth, and everything has been derived from that. So that is very important. That's how we maintain the purity. Otherwise, if we do our own interpretation, then that's not the truth. So Brahmaji was responding to Naraji's question, and Brahmaji explained how he had a darshan of Vaikuntha planet. And he got the darshan of the Supreme Lord. Vrityabhimukham. Supreme Lord was leaning towards his devotees. Drigasavam. His eyes were, जैसे हम लोग बोलते हैं कई बार नशीली आंखें. That is all rubbish in the material sense. But when Lord is looking at his devotees, his servants, with that love and affection, so in his eyes, Brahmaji could see that. That's what he was referring to. Prasanna hasa lochana. Prasanna hasa. Lord is always smiling. My Guru Maharaj says, अगर भगवान को दुखी होना भी पड़े तो दुखी हो ही नहीं सकते. If Supreme Lord has to be unhappy, he can never be unhappy. Because उनका स्वरूप ही आनंद है. He is आनंद चिन्मय. He can never be unhappy. उनको कभी ये प्रॉब्लम नहीं कि लक्ष्मी जी नाराज हो गई, आज खाना नहीं बनेगा. He doesn't have to worry about. So he's always happy. Prasanna hasaram lochana. You know, his anand, his face. And then as Brahmaji saw that vision of the Supreme Lord, the tears started flowing from his eyes. And then the Supreme Lord spoke to him. He said to Brahma, Brahma, I am very pleased because the austerity that you have performed, I am very happy with that. And then Supreme Lord himself says that this austerity is my greatest strength. Yeah. Viryam me, this is my virya, this is my shakti. Viryam me duscharam tapam. And what did we interpret from that? Why Supreme Lord is saying tapa, tap? What is the understanding of that? Why does Lord need to do tapasya? Very important point. Because Supreme Lord is saying tapas evam main tapasya se hi is I create tapsev srijam idam. By tapasya, by austerity, I create this universe. Yes. Grasami tapsa punah. By austerity, I annihilate this. So what is that tap? Anybody remember that? That was very important point.
That means is a connect to the Krishna.
Krishna is saying मैं तपस्या कर रहा हूं. Why is Lord saying मैं तपस्या कर रहा हूं? You know how Naradji, when he saw Brahma, he said, you are the creator, you are the super, everything, you are the Purvaj. Bhut Bhavyam Purvaja, everything, you have created everything. But there is one, and he even said that I don't see anyone equal to you. Anyone superior to you, anyone equal but to superior, I don't see anyone equal to you as well. But there is one thing. When I see you performing such an austerity, why are you performing this austerity? And that gives us doubt. ये न खेद ऐसे मुझे आपको देख के खेद को इंग्लिश में क्या बोलेंगे? खेद होता है ना. I feel sorry. I feel sorry. ये न खेद ऐसे नस्त शंकाम च पर्यच. हमें डाउट होने लगता है. We start doubting your position. So that was a very important point. Does anyone remember that? You may, we are studiously, we are trying to study every chapter. I suggest you you bring your notebooks, take these important points. And after 1 week, 2 weeks, when you go back, then you can see in 2.10, what was the important point, 2.9, what was this? This is a very important point, Prabhuji. Why is Krishna saying, I have to do austerity? So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that by that austerity, the Supreme Lord is saying detachment. He creates, his tapasya is his detachment. He's not attached. Sut Goswami says, Srajati avati aktina tatra sajjati. He creates, he annihilates, he maintains, but he's still not attached to that. So that is his austerity. He creates so perfectly, he maintains so perfectly, and he annihilates so perfectly. If you know something that you're going to annihilate tomorrow, will you be creating that sincerely? No. We all know that tomorrow this is going to be taken by the council. Or you're going to put it on the curbside. But today you should clean it nicely. That is austerity. His Holiness Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj, he used to say, when we take our dhoti kurta, we just throw them on the ground. But he was very delicate. He would say, no, nicely put it. It doesn't mean he's attached to that. He's detached, but at the same time, he's careful. Very important. Why does Supreme Lord has to do? So this is his austerity. Yeah, very important. So he told Brahma that Brahma, I am very pleased with your austerity because I myself believe in austerity. And now ask for a boon. And Brahmaji then asked some questions. Right? And before that, Brahmaji also said that, my dear Lord, you have asked me to create. Now tell me how I should create so that I don't get attached. I don't feel any bonding. I don't become lethargic. I don't get pride that I'm creating. Because he says, I'm going to vibhajanam bhojanam. I'm going to give the living entities different bodies as per their karmas. If you are given a table to distribute the prasadam, we get so much connected to the prasadam itself. If somebody is asking 2 pakodas, we say, "Tere ko 2 pakode ka kya karna hai?" Because we get connected. या फिर हम लोग नीचे अपनी प्लेट लगा लेते हैं पहले, राइट राइट कि लास्ट में मिलेगा नहीं मिलेगा, पहले अपनी प्लेट लगा लेते हैं. That's it. हमें सिर्फ उसमें हमारा कुछ भी नहीं लगा. Somebody has given me a bucket of dal to serve. See, ना मैंने दाल बनाई है, ना मैंने कुछ किया है, मेरा उसमें कुछ भी नहीं लगा है. Somebody gave me, प्रभु जी इस bucket को बांट दो. And as I'm behind the table, people coming and bringing their plate in front of me, I start thinking, I'm the one who is giving them prasad. कोई 2 बार मांग ले, प्रभु जी क्या आपका दिमाग ठीक है? और लोगों को भी लेना है. और फिर लगता है बाल्टी 1/4 हो गई है, शायद मेरे लिए बचेगा नहीं बचेगा, डिब्बा भर के नीचे रखिए. So that's what Brahmaji is saying, my dear Lord, may I should not be affected by that, because I'm going to create. So very, very important point. Oh, Hare Krishna Mataji, please come. Jai. Please welcome Shashi Mataji. So we get so connected to that. Now Brahmaji, when he prayed to the Supreme Lord said, don't worry. I will give you the knowledge, the supreme knowledge with Vijnana. Vijnana with realization. Very important. We don't realize. I say to you, Prabhuji, I'm always Dandvat to you, Prabhu, Dandvat Pranam, Prabhu this, Prabhu that. But have I realized that? Or am I just doing a lip service? That is the point. We speak from realization. If I call you my superior, then I realize that you are my superior. And I'm your inferior. So that realization has. So Lord Supreme Lord said to Brahmaji, Brahma, I will give you with Vijnana, with realization. I will tell you the truth. And then Supreme Lord spoke 4 verses, which become Chaturshloki Bhagavatam. So let's revise that. Let's remember these 4 verses, the essence of these 4 verses. So the first question that Brahmaji asked from the Supreme Lord was, what is your form, material and superior spiritual form? Please tell me. And then the Supreme Lord tells him that I was the only one existed before creation as the Lord of the spiritual world. I only one existed. After the creation, I exist as the universe. Remember, he is saying, I exist as a universe. So the Supreme Lord is the universe himself. And we are all inside the universe. So we are all part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. We ought to realize that. This is not a small position. In that sense, we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. After the creation, he says, I exist as the universe. I also exist as the super soul, as the Paramatma. I pervade. Vishtabhya aham idam krit sanam. 10.4 to Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is saying to Arjuna, Vishtabhyam idam krit sanam. The entire Universe I pervade. Vistabhyam I pervade the end. Kritsanam entire. Idam, this universe I pervade. Right? He is the universe. He is the super soul. And then third thing he says is, after this creation, I also appear as various incarnations. So that is his root. Then the second question Brahmaji asked about is your energies. He asked about your energies. And the Supreme Lord said, he gave a very simple answer. He says, anything that is not related to me is useless. Anything that appears to be of any value without relation to me is illusion. As simple as that. Yeah. So this was the second response. And the third he asked is, how do you act? Your energies and your form, or your activities in relation to your energies. Your activities in relation to energy. And he says, I'm creating this. This material universe, this is created. Right? And that's where all the various Purusha avatars that we are hearing, that we're going through. And the fourth thing Brahmaji asks is, your mercy. How can I get your mercy? And the Supreme Lord said that by performing the devotional service to me, you will get my mercy, Brahma. And then you will never be lethargic, you will never feel proud, and you will never be bonded to any, like that attachment will not be there for you. So that was the fourth thing he said, the devotional service. That is my mercy. And then Brahmaji told this to Naradji, and then he told Naradji, now you go and expand on this. So this is the Chaturshloki Bhagavatam. Please remember this. Yeah. Now we will study today we're gonna go through chapter number 10. So let me share my screen. Can't see actually. How do I? Function. Okay, now you can see. This is verse number 44. Okay. So just so we understand the context. So this is chapter number 10. Now the other questions asked by Parikshit Maharaj, he asked many questions in chapter 2.8. So his other question was that how this universe is created. We have already discussed the two Virat Roop, and this is the third discussion about it. So here Shukdev Goswami has described the formation or the third Virat Roop, and the essence of this chapter is, apart from answering to all the questions, is that our desires form our next body. The subtle body and the gross body is the result of our desires. So that is the essence of this. So now we will discuss this verse and then we will go through the detail. Just checking. Okay. Please repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Itham bhavena kathito. Itham bhavena kathito. इत्थं भावेन कथितो भगवान् भगवत्तमः भगवान् भगवत्तमः नेत्थं भावेन हि परम् नेत्थं भावेन हि परम् द्रष्टुम् अर्हन्ति सूर्यः द्रष्टुम् अर्हन्ति सूर्यः Word by word translation by Srila Prabhupada ki. Please repeat. Itham, in these features, bhavena, the matter of creation and destruction, kathita, described, Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Bhagavat Tamah, by the great transcendentalists, na, not, itham, in this, bhavena, features, he, only, param, most glorious, drashtum, to see, arhanti, deserve, surya, great devotees. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki. Please repeat. The great transcendentalists thus describe the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the pure devotees deserve to see more glorious things in transcendence beyond these features. We will read the purport, and when we discuss the chapter, then you will be able to relate with this. For now, let's please hear the purport. The Lord is not only the creator and destroyer of the material manifestations of his different energies, he is more than a simple creator and destroyer, for there is his feature of Anand, or his pleasure feature. This pleasure feature of the Lord is understood by the pure devotees only and not by others. Just to give you some more context on this verse, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he has commented. So you know how sometimes we say Vishwakarta, Jagakarta, Jagpalan Karta, Jagharta. We give these various names to the Supreme Lord. Yeah, you would have heard that. But at the same time, there are different names given to the Supreme Lord, like Yashomati Nandana, Brajbaranagar, Gokula Nandana Khan. So these are two different set of naming the Supreme Lord. Right? Out of these two, the second one is called primary, and the other names are called secondary. Very important. There's a very subtle difference, if I can get your attention. So the secondary in the sense, so the Lord being a creator, Lord being a destroyer, that can be done by any of Lord's energies. But Supreme Lord prefer to be called by his names like Makhan Chor, Govinda, Yashomati Nandan. He feels more pleasure if we address him by those names. Right? If a mother, or you can take a very simple example, if your son is an officer in a big company, would a mother call him, oh, you are the director of that company? No, mother would still like to say, hey, idhar aake baitho. Once I was, one pastime comes to my mind, I'll share with you. Once Maharajji, he went to see one of the, deputy commissioner. He was a judge. So, and he was one of the disciples. So Maharaj went to see him. And as Maharaj went there, so by chance, he did not inform that I'm coming. So Maharaj was so merciful that he will just walk into their house. And as Maharaj walked in, his wife was shouting at the judge, क्या समझते हो अपने आप को? Who are you? तुमको इतना भी नहीं पता. You don't even know this and that. And then as Maharaj entered the room, and then the disciple Judge Sahab, he just paid Dandvat. Maharaj said, अरे हमें तो पता ही नहीं था तुम्हारे इतने भी नाम हैं. I did not know. You have all these qualities also. And then he became a bit shy. And he said, Maharaj, क्या करे? पत्नी कुछ भी बोलती है. So then Maharaj, he had a good laugh and blessed them. But the point is, where there is love, the point that I'm trying to highlight is the love, where there is love and affection, unconditional love. So the Supreme Lord, he doesn't like to be addressed. Once Krishna, I think after the Ras dance or some pastime, I can't remember exactly, then he appeared in the Chaturbhuj form. And the Gopi said, who are you? No, we don't, you go. We want our Kana, who is two-armed form, who is playing the flute. We want him, we don't want Krishna. So the point is here, now in this verse, what Shukdev Goswami telling Parikshit Maharaj is that Supreme Lord who is creator, who is destroyer, some devotees or some people, he says, Bhagavattama, the topmost devotees of the Supreme Lord, Itham Bhavena, with this mood they describe him. But Surya, the devotees of the Lord, they don't want to be connected. Rather he's saying, Arahanti, means they deserve to see that beautiful form of the Lord, which is higher than this. So that's what this verse is about. Yeah. So he is just, described the Supreme Lord as creator of the universe. But here in this, he is concluding, he says, no. He says the great transcendentalists describe the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the pure devotees deserve to see more glorious things in the transcendence beyond these features. Yeah? I hope you understand. And now we read the purport again. So the impersonalists. So this pleasure feature of the Lord is understood by the pure devotees only, not by others. Only the devotees can understand that. And you also understand the difference between primary naming and the secondary naming. You understand that? Very important. This is Bhakti Vinod Thakur's conclusion, who is the Acharya in our Parampara. The impersonalist is satisfied simply by understanding the all-pervasive influence of the Lord, and this is called Brahman realization. Yeah. Greater than the impersonalist is the mystic who sees the Lord situated in his heart as Paramatma. Vadanti tattva vidas tattvam yad jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwaniti shabdate. Sud Goswami is saying the tattva vidas, people who are knower of the tattva, jo tattva ko jante hain, whose knowledge is above the duality, they describe that Supreme Lord as Brahman, who is all pervading, or they describe him as Paramatma, who is situated in everybody's heart, and the higher than that is Bhagavan iti Shabdate, who has a form and who is all blissful, all beautiful. Yeah. So that's what in the Prabhupada is saying. But there are pure devotees who take part in the direct pleasure potency of the Lord by factual reciprocation of loving service. The Lord in his abode called the Vaikuntha planets, which are eternal manifestations, always remains with his associates and enjoys transcendental loving services by his pure devotees in different transcendental humors. Like I said, what did Brahmaji say? Vrityabhimukham. Yeah. He was smiling and he was leaning towards his devotees. That's how the pastimes are happening in the Vaikuntha planets, the Lord and between his devotees. The pure devotees of the Lord thus undergo a practice of that devotional service to the Lord during the manifestation of the creation and take full advantage of the manifestation by qualifying themselves to enter into the kingdom of God. The Bhagavad Gita 18.55 confirms Bhaktya mam avijanati yavan yascha asmi tatvata tato mam tatvato gnatva vishate tad anantara. By development of pure devotional service, one can factually know the Lord as He is, and thus be trained in the bona fide service of the Lord and be allowed to enter into the direct association of the Lord in so many capacities. So very simple, Supreme Lord is saying, Bhaktya mam avijanati. If you want to know me, you can know me by devotional service only. There is no other way to know me. Bhakti. The highest glorious association with the Lord is made possible in the planet of Golok, Vrindavan, where Lord Krishna enjoys himself with the gopis and his favorite animals, the Surabhi cows. Surabhir palayanti. Brahmaji describes in Brahma Samhita that in the Golok planet, all the trees are the wish, what is Chintamani Prakhara, right? They are the desire fulfilling trees. You think of something and it appears. And what is Krishna doing there? Surabhir palayanti. He's just tending the cows there. That's what he's doing. Mother Lakshmi is cleaning the walls. That somehow Krishna will look at me. Lakshmi Sahasra Sambram Sevdaman. Thousands of Lakshmis are waiting to get a glance of the Supreme Lord. So that's what he's doing there with his devotees. Supreme Lord. The highest glorious association with the Lord is made possible in the planet Golok Vrindavan, where Lord Krishna enjoys himself with the gopis and his favorite animals, the Surabhir cows. The description of this transcendental land of Krishna is given in Brahma Samhita, which is considered by Lord Sri Chaitanya to be the most authentic literature in this connection. So let's do Mangalacharan and then we will take a deep dive into this chapter. This is a very interesting chapter today. So please get your minds focused. Please get ready, so that Supreme Lord reciprocate. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padkamlam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Savadhetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Shri Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Bhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarobhyascha Kripa Sindhubha Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bhute Mahadbhir Yaima Puro Vibho Nirmaya Shete Yadamosha Purusha Bhumte Gunansho Dasasho Dashatmakam सोलंक श्रेष्ठ भगवान वचांसि मे श्री कृष्ण शरणं शरणागतं कथा अमृतं सतत पीबतं भक्ति वेदांत मार्ग पंथनम सर्वलोक ऋषि देव जन्म प्रसन्नम सर्वलोक ऋषि देव जन्म प्रसन्नम. Hare Krishna. So in the previous chapter, after Brahmaji, after Lord Shiv, the Supreme Lord spoke about Bhagavad Chaturshloki to Brahmaji, then Brahmaji spoke to Naradji, and then Shukdev Goswami tells to Parikshit Maharaj that Idam Bhagavatam Puranam. Idam Bhagavatam Puranam Dasha Lakshanam. This Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Puran, which has 10 Lakshan. Lakshan as in 10 topics. It has 10 topics, and he says, Proktam Bhagavato Praha. I am going to speak, or he spoke those 10 topics which was spoken by the Supreme Lord, Bhagavato Praha, and he spoke to Pritah Putraya Bhutakrita. So that Brahmaji, who is the creator of all the living entities, he spoke the same Bhagavat to his son, Putraya Pritah. By love, he spoke to his Putra, Naradji, same what was spoken to by the Lord, and it has 10 Lakshan. Now remember, it has 10 Lakshan. Yeah. Now this 10th chapter, it starts with the description of those 10 Lakshans. So he says, let me share my screen. Where is the screen? Can you see my screen, Prabhuji?
Yes.
How do I do it? Slideshow. So chapter 10 has 4 sections. The first section is the 10 characteristics of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. And then second section, it talks about Sarga, which is the primary creation. And then Visarga, which is the secondary creation. And then the fourth section is Shaunak Rishis, they inquire about Vidur Maitreya Sambhava. So the first we'll look at the 10 characteristics of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So Shukdev Goswami says to Parikshit Maharaj that Atra Sargo Visargascha. Yeah. Sthanam Poshanam Utaya Manvantaresha Nu Katha Nirodho Muktir Ashray. So 10 topics. So we'll look at those 10 topics. So this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Purana Prabhuji Mataji, it addresses 10 main topics. Any other Puran, they don't have, that is why this is called Granth Raj. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is called Granth Raj, right? The king of all the Granthas, because it addresses all the 10 topics. Yeah? So the first is the primary creation, and it says the Bhut Matendriya Dhyam Janma Sarga Udaharata. The elementary creation of 16 items of matter, it is called Sarga. And this, what are those 16 items? So Bhut Matra Indriya Dhyam. Bhut is the 5 gross elements. Yeah. What are those 5 gross elements? Agni, Jal, Vayu, Prithvi, Akash. These are the 5 gross elements. Then Matra. Matra is in the objects, the object of the senses, or Tan Matra. We say Tan Matra. You know, the touch, the sense of smell, right? Hear, right? Speak, and smell. So 5 Tan Matras. 5 gross elements, 5 Tan Matras, and 5 senses, which is called Jnanendriya, right? What are? Speaking, touching, hearing, smelling, and taste. So 5 Tanmatra and 5 senses and 5 gross elements and the intelligence, right? The subtle, what we call it, ahankar. It is actually translated as ahankar, the false ego. Yeah? So these are the primary creation. And three types of Purusha incarnations that we have been discussing. What are those three Purusha incarnations? What is the first one? Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu, yes. He is lying in the Karanodakshai. You all right? Yeah. There's a room at the back, Mati, if you want to sit there. Yes. Yeah. So, yeah. So Mahavishnu or Karanodakshai Vishnu, and the second is the Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and the third one is Kshirodakshai Vishnu. So these are the three Purusha. Please remember. So the first primary creation is from the Karanodakshai Vishnu. Right? Then the second is the Visarga, which is creation by Brahmaji. Brahmaji creates all of us. The Supreme Lord makes all the arrangement, all the planetary system, everything is created, and then Brahmaji is given the task to create us, the living entities. Brahmaji creates that. And in further, Shukadeva Goswami says, it is the Supreme Lord who himself takes the form of Brahma and creates. Everything is done by him only. So this is secondary creation. Then the third is called Sthanam, which is the right situation, and it is called Sthitir Vaikuntha Vijaya. Now you might be wondering why it is called the victory of the Lord, Vaikuntha. So primary creation, secondary creation, now Sthan, a place for living entities to live. So he creates that. So these 14 planetary systems, the system is created. These are various planets are created by the Supreme Lord. And the very important, it is said, why it is called the victory of the Supreme Lord? Because we are always progressing towards destruction. The day we are created, the day we appear, we are basically moving towards destruction, isn't it? The day things appear, then the destruction is getting ready for it. Right? So we are always decreasing. There is always that decrease. So here the victory of the Supreme Lord is, even though we are always progressing towards destruction, the Supreme Lord is providing us a place to stay where we can be protected. Take, for example, you have a house to stay. Right? If you don't have a place to stay, you will be standing out in the sun or in the winters or in the flood somewhere. Right? So this nice arrangement by Shri Radha Partha Sarthi Bhagwan, we are sitting here and glorifying the Lord, discussing his pastime. So this is his victory. Yeah. So that is the point to understand. So he creates, he gives us that position. Okay. Then the next one is the Poshanam. Poshanam tad anugraha. So his victory is to provide us the place to stay, and then his mercy, his causeless mercy, is to take care of us. In the 6th canto, there is discussion about Ajamil pastime. Ajamil, he was a sinful person. But only once he chanted Narayan. Only once he chanted Narayan, Vishnu Dut aage to protect him. So this is his causeless mercy to protect his devotees, to take care of his devotees. Right? Indra. Vritrasura Indra fight was going on. 6th canto will discuss that also. The Supreme Lord protected Indra also, who is not a pure devotee, who is a mixed devotee. And Vritrasura was a pure devotee, by the way. He was in the body of a demon. You know Vritrasura, who was he in his previous life? He was that, even just now I had the name, I forgot the name. He was a famous king. He was a great devotee of the Lord. He was given a boon. He was going to the higher planets. Chitraketu, Maharaj Chitraketu. He was going to the higher planets and he saw Lord Shiva speaking Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam in assembly, and he had Mother Parvati sitting on his lap. And he was glorifying Lord Shiva. He was glorified in a way that look at Lord Shiva. Glorious. He is so glorious. He is not affected by any of these. He is still speaking Hari Katha. But Mother Parvati took an offense and she cursed him. And then he had to take birth as a demon. And then Lord Shiva chastised Mother Parvati after that. And then there was a fight between Vritrasura and Indra. So Indra was protected by Supreme Lord and Vritrasura died. And before dying, he offering so beautiful prayers to the Supreme Lord. We'll discuss when we go to chapter 6. So this is his Poshanam. This is how he is causeless mercy. Remember the word causeless. Causeless means there is no cause. Bina hetu sanehi. Without any hetu, he is sanehi. सबसे प्यार करते हैं. Without any motive. So that is his causeless mercy. Poshna. Then Manvantara. Then there is a discussion of Manvantara in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. In fourth canto, Shukdev Goswami describing just first Manvantara he started talking. Very first Manvantara. When Swambhu Manu and Mata Shatrupa and then their children, Mata Devhuti, Mata Prasuti, Akuti, Maharaj Priyavart, Maharaj Uttanpat, son Dhruv Maharaj, and then Maharaj Priyavart in his lineage, Bhagwan Rishabdev appears. And then Mata Devhuti got married to Kardam Muni and their children. And then Kapil Devhuti Samvad. Right? So in that Manvantara, he was describing that. And then as he went on describing, then by the time Shukdev Goswami got to the 8th canto, now Parikshit Maharaj said to him that you are going to describe the Manvantars, but you only described one Manvantara. I want to know about other Manvantara also. And then 8th canto is about all the 14 Manvantars. And then he was talking about the incarnations, Manvantara avatar he's talking about. And then as he said that in that, I think 4th Manvantara, the Supreme Lord came as Hari when he rescued Gajendra. And then Shukdev said, oh, you spoke about Gajendra, please tell me about this pastime. Then 3 chapters he spoke about Gajendra. And then he said in the 6th or 7th Manvantara, I think, when the Samudra Manthan Leela happened, the Supreme Lord appeared as Ajit, Bhagwan Ajit. And then he said, oh, this Samudra Manthan Leela, please explain me this, the Charnigota ocean. And there are 4 or 5 chapters he discussed about the Samudra Manthan. And then Supreme Lord appeared as Dhanvantri Avatar, and then Mohini Avatar, and then various pastimes were discussed. So like this 8th canto is about Manvantars. So that is one of the topics of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. And then other thing is Manvantarani Sadharma. And then you must have heard the term called Manu Smriti. In every Manvantar, Manu Maharaj, he established some principles how the living entity should live. Right? So that is discussed. Then Uti is karma, the desire for fruitive work. That is also discussed. In 7th canto, there is discussion about this topic. Yeah, the desire to work. And it is said the desire to work or karam vasana. It is said that we do this work because of our impressions on the heart. All the activities that we are doing is because of the impressions on our heart. Those so-called desires, they leave impressions, and then we like to repeat those. We like to do them. This is the conditioning. Nothing else. Our man, as they say, in the core of my heart. Heart is how much core? This is just small. But when we're describing in the depth, from the bottom of my heart, so basically it's trying to get to the bottom of all these desires. Yeah. So a desire to perform fruitive activities, perform some actions. Okay. Then Ishanu Katha, Avatar Anucharitam. In 9th canto we will discuss, like 8th canto I said various incarnations. Then in 9th canto also there are very number of small stories. If you want to read 9th canto for the stories of the Supreme Lord. Very small pastimes are discussed. Then Nirodha, winding up. winding, merging of the living entities with mystic lying down of Mahavishnu. Yeah. When the Mahapralaya happens, we all go back into the body of Mahavishnu. Those souls who are liberated, living entities, they are able to go back to home, back to Godhead in Golok Vrindavan and get the association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're able to go and serve. Otherwise, we just go back into Mahavishnu. And then when the creation happens, then we come out again, and then we just, go through these various bodies. That's what. So Nirodha. So that is also discussed. In 12th canto, there is a discussion of Nirodha. Mukti, this is discussed in the 11th canto. 11th canto, there is Uddhav Gita. Right? Lord Krishna is speaking to Uddhavji. In 11th canto, there is Navyogendra or Maharaj Nimi Samvad. So that speaks of Mukti, liberation. So all those topics are discussed in 11th canto. And then the 10th most important point is the Ashraya. Ashraya is in shelter, right? So very important. So now, after speaking this first verse, that in this Atra Sargo Visargascha, Sthanam Poshanam Utaya, Manvantareshu Ishan Katha, Nirodho Muktir Ashraya. And then Shukdev Goswami tells Parikshit Maharaj, Dasam Asya Vishuddha Artham. So the essence of all this topic is to get the maximum understanding of the 10th topic, which is Ashraya. Dasam Asya Vishuddha Artham. Varnayanti Mahatma. Right? All the Mahatmas, all the great souls, they have discussed about the 10th topic. Dasham Asya Vishuddha Artham Navanam Lakshanam. So the characteristics of the 9th topic are discussed to get the most for the 10th topic, which is described by Mahatmas. Other topics are described by the great souls, and they are described based on the Shrutena Arthena Cha Anjasa, taking reference from the Vedas, Shrutis, direct translations, or from direct experiences. So the whole point is getting the 10th topic, which is Ashraya, which is taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of God. Now, just to get more focus, for example, we have these focus lights here. So what is the purpose of the focus light?
More decorative.
Yes. Anyone else? Highlight, yes. Highlight what? Supreme Lord, yes. Very good. Yes. So these 9 topics, they are these focus lights. So that we can understand Shri Shri Radha Parthasati. We can take the shelter of Shri Shri Radha Parthasati. All these other 9 topics are discussed to direct us. If there is no Shri Shri Radha Parthasati Bhagwan, are these focus light of any use? No use. Shramevi Kevalam, that is just a labor. Or if these lights are disturbed, I mean, Shri Shri Radha Parthasati Bhagwan will be there. He is ever glowing. But this is for us. If the lights are disturbed, the Supreme Lord will still be there, but we cannot get the right vision. So this is for our benefit. So in this Puran, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Prabhuji Mataji, these 10 topics are discussed, and out of these 10 topics, the focus is to get a better understanding of, or for us to surrender to the Supreme Lord, the Ashraya topic. All these 9 topics, they lead to the 10th topic, which is Ashraya, which is to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of God. So that's what Shukdev Goswami told Parikshit Maharaj in the previous chapter, that I will describe to you. So that is it. And in this, another important, so the word, the slok that I put there is Avhasascha Nirodhascha Yato Ati Adhyavasiyate Sa Ashraya Param Brahma Paramatmeti Shakti. So what they're saying is Abhasascha Nirodhascha. Abhas is from the time of creation. And the word uses Abhas. Abhas means what? You feel something is there, but it is not there. So that mindset, because we tend to think everything is permanent. It is just an abhas, it is just an illusion. So this material creation. So that's the point. From the point of creation to the time of annihilation. Yeah. Or in all these topics, whatever we see or whatever we experience, right? Yato ati adhya vasiyati, right? All of that is ashraya, is under the shelter of the Supreme Lord, who is called Parabrahma Paramatmeti Shabda. All of that is under the shelter of that. So that is the whole point to understand. Now, after describing these topics, now Shukdev Goswami, when he's speaking to Parikshit Maharaj, then he suddenly starts telling him about that. He gives another example just to get the point across. Now, normally, Prabhuji Mataji, we have, they are called three type of, you must have heard Adhyatmik, Adi Devik, and Adi Bhautik. You must have heard. Adi Bhautik means gross, right? Adhyatmik means subtle, right? And Adi Devik means the presiding deities, right? So basically, within our body or within this, there are three, you can say, 3 points to understand, right? This gross body. Now, to give an example, for example, your eyes. ये जो आपकी eye है, ये this is a gross eyeball. This is a gross form. Then behind this, there is a subtle form which is called chakshu. When we do Guru Pranam, when we do Guru Vandana, we say Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruvena. उन्होंने मेरे ज्ञान चक्षु जिसने खोल दिए, ज्ञान का अंजन लगा के by the, you know, by the by what is called, by the medicine of ज्ञान, you know, वो लगा के he opened my ज्ञान चक्षु. So what you see, eyeball is physical eye. Behind this chakshu, which is the subtle, which you can say adhyatmik. Eye is Adi Bhautik, and the third thing is called Adi Devik, which is the presiding deity. So the presiding deity for eyes is sun. So these are the three categories. Now, out of these three, if one is not operational, you cannot see. Out of these three, if your eyeball is gone, then you can't see. Even though Adhyatmik is there, Adi Devik is there, sun god is there, you can't see that. If the sun god stops giving you energy, then you also cannot see. There is no light, pitch dark, you cannot see that. So these three are dependent on each other. Right? And then Shukdev Goswami says, yes, these three are there, Adhyatmik, Adi Devik, Adi Bhautik, but behind that, on top of these three is the soul. On top of these three is the soul. If any of these are absent, you cannot see. But he says that soul is not dependent on these three. Any of these three. And on top of the soul is, he's saying, super soul. So soul is dependent on the super soul, but he says super soul does not depend on anything. So basically, he's establishing the hierarchy. Yeah? Yeah. Are we together? So he's established the hierarchy, and he's saying then that super soul, who is that super soul? That is Paramatma. And above Paramatma, who is Krishna. 10.42, when Krishna describes his opulence to Arjun, Lord Krishna says, Athva, yeah? Athva bahuna etena kim jnatena tav Arjuna. Vishtabhya aham idam kritsanam ekanshena sthito jagat. He says, oh Arjun, from my one particle, fragment particle, I pervade this whole universe, and I also protect sthito. I'm holding this whole universe on that. So the hierarchy that Shukdev Goswami is establishing here is Krishna is on the top, then Paramatma, then Super Soul, under super soul, actually, I haven't touched upon that. In this shlok, he is calling those three as Purushas. Adi Bhautik Purusha, Adhyatmik Purusha, Adi Devik Purusha, but that is not Purusha. So he is using a bit of a sarcasm in this verse. Because we think of ourselves to be Purusha. We identify ourselves with the body. Right? So he's established the hierarchy very clearly. So he has described the 10 topics. Now he has described the hierarchy, and now he will start talking about the creation. Sarga. So 10 topics covered. Now he speaks about the creation. So in one of the questions asked by Parikshit Maharaj was this question. Kunal, can you read this? Read on the screen. Can you see? Is it? Oh, London Brahma. So this is the question.
It was formally explained that
Loudly.
all the planets of the universe were the respective governors situated in different parts of gigantic bodies of the
Virat Purush.
I've also heard that the different planetary systems are supposed to be in the gigantic body of the Virat Purusha. But what is the actual position? Will you please explain?
So that was the question asked by Parikshit Maharaj, and this is how the Virat Purush looked. Can you see now? Is it visible enough? So this is how we visualize the universe. The Virat Purush, when the various universes are coming out of body of Mahavishnu, and then Garbhodakshaya Vishnu who enters into the universe. So this is how the various planetary systems are imagined into the body of that Virat Purush. And today we will discuss how these various body parts are formed into the body of this Virat. So that was the question asked by Parikshit Maharaj, and then Shukdev Goswami will answer that. Yeah. So who can read? Mataji, what is your son's name? Kishan, please read. Can you read that? Read it loudly if it is visible to you. You can't say this? It is too. Okay, I will read it then. You please hear. O King, your questions as to how the universe became manifested from the gigantic form of the personality of Godhead, as well as other questions, I shall answer in detail by explaining of the 4 verses already mentioned. So those 4 verses are Chaturshloki Bhagavatam, and then Shukdev Goswami says, I will describe to you. So this is the formation of the Virat Purush, how the lokas and the demigods, the governors, they are visualized into the body of the Virat Purush, they are imagined. So that we will answer here. So this is the interesting topic. So let's try to get our thinking hats on. Very often we question how the creation has happened. So the first creation, the Sarga. So the procedure is the Virat Purush desire to eat, speak, and then the gross sense appear. Okay, let me go back. In the 3rd canto, you may know, some of you if you have read, but in the 3rd canto, 31st chapter, Kapil Bhagwan is describing to Mata Devhuti how a child forms within the womb of a mother. So he says the first time initially there is a lump of flesh which is like a plum. He says like a plum or in the egg shape after 5 days. And then he says slowly that grows. As that grows, then the various body parts start forming. The hands appear, the legs appear, the head appear. It starts taking form. And by the end of 7 months, the child is fully conscious. So in the same way, Prabhuji Mataji, when the creation happens, when the Virat Purush, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, when he enters into this universe, so you can imagine something similar, same concept. This is how creation happens. And as I said, so this Virat Purush description is going to be discussed based on the desires. When he desired to eat, the mouth appeared. When he desired to see, the eyes appeared. Initially, it was just you can say a lump, something like that. Yeah. So now the Lord's desire. So let's look at. So what happened is, initially as Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, as he entered into the ocean, then he could not find a place for himself to stay. It is in an egg form. As he could not find a place to stay, then what did he do? He perspired from his own body. And with that perspiration, he filled up almost half of the universe. And this universe, by the way, is already floating on the Karanodakshaya ocean, where Mahavishnu is lying. Mahavishnu is lying, from his pores of his body, universe appeared, and in the Karanodakshaya. So this universe is floating in the Karanodakshaya ocean, where we are now. So that ocean is floating there. The Garbhodakshaya Vishnu entered. He could not see anything. He perspiration from his body. He filled up. And that perspiration, he says, Suchi. Pure. So Goswami decides it's a Suchi. Suchi Apa. Apa means water. And with that, then he, because it is born from his own body, so it is called Nar. So he is Nar, and anything born from his body is called Nar. Right? And then he lied into that. Then he lied into that water himself. So that is why he's called Narayan. Ayan means lying down, and Nar means something born from the body of the Nar, or Nar is also called the water. So he lied down on that water. So that's how first thing happened. Now, as he is lying down on the water, then it is said, then from the Akash, from the ether inside his body, from the ether inside the body of the Garbhodakshaya ocean, then he got Indriya Bal, he got Deh Bal, and he got Mano Bal. Are we together? He got bodily strength, he got sensual strength, and he got mental strength. So that strength he got. And after that, he also got Pran. From the ether, he also got the Pran, who is the king of all the senses. Right? If one day you do not eat, or if your Pran is weak, Pran is one, is Swas. The breathing air. If in the absence of breathing air, what happens? We die. Right? So that Pran appeared. And as that Pran appeared, then that Pran, he started breathing. As he started breathing, the air was coming in, going out, coming in, going out. Then he started feeling hungry. So he desired, as he started feeling hungry, he desired to eat and drink. As he desired to eat and drink, then what appeared? Talu, the tongue appeared. The tongue appeared, which is the gross organ. Now, this is how his body is developing. And our body develops in the same form, if you want to live that. Yeah. So there are now 4 things to understand. So the desire is to drink and eat. When he desired to drink and eat, the tongue appeared, the talu. So this is the gross sense. And what is the subtle sense? Is jivha. Now, how to understand the difference? Gross and the subtle. Let's say you're trying to eat something that you really like, but it is very hot. Somebody is, let's say, eating the jalebi, and jalebi has just come out from the halwai's kadhai, and it's very hot. It's very hot. You put it on your tongue. What happens? Your tongue is burned. Then what is the result? No taste. You said no?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Very good. No taste. So that's your subtle sense. Your tongue is still there, but you lost the taste. So that is the subtle sense. Try to understand the difference. So this is what we're saying, the subtle sense organ is jivha. Yeah. And then the sense devta. Now this sense is being directed, so there is a demigod for each sense. So Varun Devta, yeah, he's assigned that. And then for this to function properly, then there is a sense object and the sense element. You know, the taste. So taste and water. Water is the gross element, right? And taste is the tanmatra. Taste is tan, which is the subtle sense. If you remember in the I think second or third chapter we discussed, when a yogi leaves the body, how when he's crossing through the various coverings, he leaves the gross body and then the very subtle senses. If you go back, so this is how we leave the body when we are going. We drop these various coverings, we drop these various subtle senses also. Yeah. But when we desire to drink and eat, so this is the process. Okay. Don't worry if you can't register, but it is worth understanding. Then he wanted to speak. When he wanted to speak, then mukham, the mouth came, the voice, which is the gross, but the subtle sense is the vak. Some people, people who are dumb, we call them dumb, jo nahi bol sakte na, they have mouth. There is no vak. So that subtle sense is missing. Remember before this, what Shukdev Goswami said, those three, Adhyatmik, Adi Bhautik, Adi Daivik, if one of the three is missing, then they will not function. But the soul, which is beyond these, the soul is not dependent on any three of these. The only problem is when we start identifying with the body, our false ego, that's when the problem is. Otherwise, people who are dumb, they still communicate with the Supreme Lord. People who are blind, they still communicate with the Supreme Lord. Okay. And then, so Vak and the fire, the sense Devta is Agni Dev. Vahanir. Vahanir is not this normal fire that we light with a matchstick on. So there are various types of fires. Once again, we won't go the technicalities, but the sense object is speech. Then the Lord wanted to smell. That Purusha line, when he wanted to smell, the nose appeared. And what is the subtle sense? Ghran. Now take for example, to understand, you have sinus. The physical nose is still there, but you say, I can't smell. Right? So Ghran. And Ashwini Kumars are the presiding deities for that. And it is smell and earth. So these are the sense object and the gross element. Then Lord wanted to see himself and other objects. Then Akshini, eyes appeared. Once again, we've already spoken about it. Eyes are not these eyeballs. Right. These are subtle senses. You can still see. Yeah, Surdas. He was blind, but he has written so many beautiful bhajans. So then the eyes appeared. He wanted to see himself. Then to understand himself through Vedic sound. When the rishis were singing the glories of the Supreme Lord, when they were chanting the Vedic hymns, he wanted to hear. And as he wanted to hear, then what appeared? The ears appeared on his body. And what is the subtle sense? Shrotra. People who are deaf, they still have the ears. But the subtle sense is not there. And the presiding deity is Dig Devta. And sound and ether, this is a bit too technical. We won't get into too much detail. When he wanted to experience the softness, hardness, heat, cold, heavy, light objects, etc., then what came? Tvacha. By the touch you want to feel, right? So what is the subtle sense? Subtle is the tvak. Yeah? And sense devta is vayu. You know how you feel when the air is blowing, you can feel something is touching. Yeah? So then those appeared on his body. Then further, and focus on the heading, Lord's desire. Right? He desired. Then he desired to experience the sensation. So this is different to the previous one. Here he is experiencing sensation. That's why I just said the hairs. Sometimes you say, "Mere rongte khade ho gaye." The hairs on my body stand up. Yeah? So that is a sensation. So then Tvachi appeared. Rome, which is a subtle sense. Rome doesn't mean these hairs, by the way. Romes are inside, subtle sense. You can't see that. Sense Devta is Mahiruha and the external itching and the touch sensation, the activity. Then Lord wanted to perform the activities. When he wanted to perform the activities, the hands appeared. And the subtle senses, Balam. Let's say you are fasting for Ekadashi. You are fasting for Ekadashi and somebody asks you to lift a chair and put it somewhere. You still have your hands, but there is no ball there, right? You're feeling a bit weak. You will say, Naini Prabhuji, aaj nahi kal utha lenge. Right? So that's the performing the activities. Then he wanted to move about. When he wanted to move about, the legs appeared. The legs appeared and the subtle senses, karma bhir. You know, when you have, sometimes people say, I don't feel like walking. You know, andar se kuch aa hi nahi raha hai. So that's where, so Upendra, so the presiding deity is Upendra. Upendra is also named for Vamana Bhagavan. Because with his three-step walking, what did he do? So he's the presiding deity. Then he wanted to, associate and have children. So the genitals appeared. Right? Then he wanted to pass the stool because he's eating. Then anus appeared. And Prabhupada it's just one line purport. And Prabhupada says, you are talking of becoming an independent. You can't even pass stool on your own. Even for that, you are dependent on, devtas, the sense devtas, Adi Devi. So what to speak of independence? There is so much stress on it. I want to be independent. I want to be independent. What kind of independence are you talking? The only independence is to serve the Supreme. That is the only Swarup. हमारे वो political, they give this dialogue. आजादी हमारा जन्म सिद्ध अधिकार है. Have you heard that dialogue? It is my birthright to be independent. What kind of independence? That's what Prabhupada is pointing. Our real position is Jivara Swarup Krishner Nityadas. That is the real independence. Everything else is useless. Yeah. Then he wanted to change the body. He wanted to change the body, then navel appeared. Because from navel itself, you leave the body and you also gain a body. Remember, when the child is born, he is connected with to mother through that. What is that cord? So they cut that cord.
Umbilical cord.
Umbilical cord. See, umbilical cord. Thank you. Mother, you are nurse. Okay. Pharmaceutical. Okay. Yes. Yeah. So for that also, if they want to change the body, then navel appeared, and from the lotus navel, Brahmaji appeared of the Supreme Lord. And death. So obviously you die, and then you want to change the body. Then you want to consume the food, and as you want to consume the food, what appeared? Abdomen appeared. Intestines that absorb the food inside, they appeared. Yeah. And the presiding deity is Samudra, and the satisfaction from filled stomach. You feel some kind of satisfaction when you have eaten. So that. Then you wanted to consume the drink. Drinking, the very first desire was he wanted to drink, so mouth appeared. Talu appeared so that he can taste it. But here, consume. Consumption is different. Inside when you do, so they actually absorb the water. The rasa is formed. Right? When you eat the food, the rasa is formed. And then the intestines, they absorb that. And that's how the blood is. And then blood, bone marrow, everything. So the inside body that gets formed. See, this is the best science arrangement. How else? So nourishment from assimilation of rasa. Then nourishment happens. Then contemplate his Maya and its created objects. Then he wanted to contemplate. Then heart appeared. We call antakaran. So inside the heart, mind is heart is the residing place for man. Mind, intelligence, false ego, the suksham sharir, the subtle body, it stays inside the heart. So that is the place for that. That's where you contemplate. Sometimes we say, "Mera dimag, meri buddhi." Ya nahi hai wo buddhi. It's not here. It's here. Right? Contemplate is Maya and it's create. When you contemplate, when you think, Hridaya appeared. So gross is Hridaya and the subtle is Mana. Yeah. Heart they can take out. They can do bypass surgery. But can they locate Man inside the heart? No. Yeah. And Chandra is the presiding deity for that. And then to contemplate, and then what is the activity? Determination and desires. All the desires, they are sitting inside the heart. Ei dushta hridaya. Bhakti Vinod Thakur is saying when he is praying to the Narsim Bhagwan, he says, Ei dushta hridaya, kam adi ripu chhaya, kuti nati sathya, pratisthasa sadaraya. Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he is praying. He says, in this dushta hridaya, yes, calm, desire, adi, all of the ripu, enemies, they are staying in this heart. Kuti nati, all the skinny, negativity, enviousness, jealousy, etc. Pratisthasa, you want pratishtha. He says, always raya, they are always staying here. And then he goes on to pray the Narsim Bhagwan. So this is the place. And then, so this is the subtle body, which is very clear. So this is how the inside of the body, or you can say that the body is formed. Now there is covering for the body. As somebody said, if somebody opens up, if somebody cuts this, do you even want to see inside? You say, oh, cover it. I don't want to see this. Inside, what is this? So this is inside. Now outside, so creation of dhatus and prana. Then on top of all of this, now the covering or the clothing or the packaging of the body. Yeah. The packaging, so 7 dhatus. It's from the top, the thin layer on the skin. So the first is the thin layer on the skin. And then the skin itself. I hope you can all relate. Yeah. There is a thin layer on the skin and there is a skin inside. Yeah. And then inside, underneath that, there is a flesh. Yes. Underneath that is blood. Yeah. Underneath that is fat. And then marrow. Bone marrow. Majja jisko kehte hain. And then bones. So then this body is covered. Right? Now Srila Prabhupada says this body, physical body, is nourished by earth, water, and fire. The physical body is nourished by earth, water, and fire. Water, you will drink water. Earth, you eat food which is generated from the earth. Right? And then fire. Fire is, you need Jatragni, the digestive fire. Yes. So these 3, they nourish the gross body. And then prana. The prana is nourished by sky, water, and air. Right? Now, how the prana are nourished by sky, water, and air? Sky means empty space. Right? If you are sitting in a cramped space, you start feeling uneasy. You always want to have a big room, big space to yourself, or open air. Space. Air is fresh air to breathe. Right? And then water, Srila Prabhupada says, water is to take a bath. If you are feeling down, but sometimes, and after taking shower, you feel fresh. So the prana is nourished by that. Breathing fresh air, taking a shower, and having open space. Okay, so we are together. So this is how the body is covered. Now, after describing all of this, now Shukdev Goswami tells Parikshit Maharaj. Then before he goes to the Visarg explanation, now he says all of this is created. He says all of this is created, O Parikshit Maharaj, by the Supreme Lord. But that Supreme Lord is not at all attached or connected to this. And all of this is created by his own potency. He is not ashray of anyone, but he is the shelter of everyone else. So this is how in his body, the various planetary systems are observed or seen. This is the gigantic body, or the Sarg, or the primary creation, right? But then he says this creation outside is the gross creation. Beyond this is a subtle, gross body and subtle body of the Supreme Lord. So here, Shukdev Goswami cautions Parikshit Maharaj. He says the devotees of the Lord, or people who are intelligent, they don't take any pleasure in worshipping or glorifying this form of the Supreme Lord. They don't take pleasure glorifying this gross form or the subtle form of the Supreme Personality of God. Then he says, what do they want to glorify, or what do they enjoy glorifying? Then he says, now let me explain you the Visarg, the secondary creation. And in the secondary creation, he says, now that Supreme Personality of Godhead, he takes the form of Brahma. He takes the form of Brahma. And in the form of Brahma, he starts creating the secondary creation, which is called Visarg. Yeah. And in the secondary creation, now who wants to read this paragraph? We all will hear. Who has a good vision? Prabhu, you want to read? Okay, please read, Prabhu. Slowly read. Everybody, please hear. This relates to all of us. So this is the secondary creation, and it will answer your questions about why have I got this body? Why am I happy? Why am I unhappy in this body? So this all relates to us. Please read, Prabhu.
O King, know from me that all living entities are created by the Supreme Lord according to their past deeds. This includes Brahma and his sons like Daksh, the periodical heads like Vivasthana, the demigods like Indra, Chandra, and Varuna, the great sages like Bhrigu, Vyas, and Vishisht, the inhabitants of Pitraloka and Siddhaloka, the Charanas, Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, Asuras, Yakshas, Kinnars, and angels, the serpentines, the monkey-shaped Kimposuras, the human beings, the inhabitants of Matraloka, the demons, Pishachas, ghosts, spirits, lunatics, and evil spirits, the good and evil stars, the goblins, the animals in the forest, the birds, the household animals, the reptiles, the mountains, the moving and standing living entities, the living entities born from embryos, from eggs, from perspirations, and from seeds, and all others, whether they be in water, land, or sky, in happiness, in distress, or in mixed happiness and distress, all of them, according to their past deeds, are created by the Supreme Lord.
Okay. Kushala akushala mishra karmana gatiyastu tvam imam. So kushala, happy, akushala, unhappy, or mixed state. This is all because of our past karma. So there is no need to think or blame anyone. According to our past karma, so the secondary creation is done by Brahmaji, yeah, according to our past karma. And then we come to today's verse. Right? Then we come to today's verse. What was the verse? Today's verse that we discussed, that the intelligent people, Bhagavattama, they described the Supreme Lord like this: the one who is creator, the one who creates, or the one who destroys. Whereas Surya, the pure devotees of the Supreme Lord, they deserve, or they don't want to describe that in this form. Rather, they want to describe in his transcendental form, right? Not as this form. Right? So this concludes this chapter now. And finally, now as as he was about to speak, now Shukdev Goswami, one of the questions was asked by the time, the calculation of time also. As he was about to start talking about the time, which means going to another description of the creation, then suddenly Parikshit Maharaj stops Shukdev Goswami and he tells him that maybe you also spoke about the discussion between Maitreya Rishi and Vidurji. Can you tell me about how Vidurji left home and Vidurji met Maitreya Rishi? Can you talk about that conversation? Because he has already heard three Virat Roop, descriptions, even though they had different purpose. But he says, can you describe that? And as Parikshit Maharaj stopped that, same question on the same point, Shaunakadi Rishi, they also stopped Sud Goswami. As Sud Goswami was about to describe about Padma Kalpa, actually before the time, then he said, I will tell you about the Padma Kalpa. So Padma Kalpa is the first Kalpa when Brahmaji is born from the Padma, from the lotus. So he was about to describe the Padma Kalpa, and then Shaunakadi Rishi stopped him. They said, no, enough of creation. We have heard three form of Virat Roop already. Maybe tell us about Vidur Maitreya Samvad. So 2 points that Acharyas highlight here is, one is when you are when you are hearing from the right source, or when you are, we are just repeating, but they are highlighting that Shukdev Goswami was speaking, Parikshit Maharaj stopped him. And as Sud Goswami was saying, then Shaunakadi Rishi also stopped him at the same point. So that says that they are hearing from the pure source, and their intention was also to hear about the Hari Katha. So the same point came. Even though when we talk about Padma Kalpa in the third canto, no, when he's talking about Vidur Maitreya Samvad, through that conversation he will describe the Padma Kalpa anyway, but that conversation will happen. So now finally, there is a question that why do we discuss about this Virat Roop? 3 times we have discussed the Virat Roop. Why there is so much discussion? In the third canto, twice the Virat Roop will be discussed as well. In the fourth canto, third canto, we will discuss Sarg again, the creation. In the fourth canto, we will discuss the lineage. In the fifth canto, we will discuss about the cosmopolitan, like all the the cosmos, how they are held together. Right? So the question asked, so Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he asked the question and he also answers the question. He says the reason for discussing the Virat Roop is because we are all inflicted by Maya, which is the material creation. Take for example, you are building a small house and you think I've done such a big thing. So to bring you at your own level, to make you realize your position, first you got to hear the Virat Roop, or the creation, or the Purusha incarnation. See how within 1 second this whole Srishti is created. He desired and the whole universe is formed. So what is your level in front of him? So that is one point. And the second point is, the more and the more we hear about the Virat Roop, the more devotion we will develop. And first we got to hear the opulence of the Supreme Lord. Only then you can understand the transcendental pastime of the Supreme Lord. At the end of the 5th canto, in the last chapter, Shukdev Goswami tells Parikshit Maharaj that for anyone to understand, to develop the transcendental, to develop the liking for the transcendental pastimes, they should hear the Virat Roop. They should hear, this is up to the 5th canto, he is saying. Otherwise, what will happen? You will, so basically it is said that this is for the non-devotees. Otherwise, you will start questioning, why did Krishna ask Yudhishthira to lie? We all question, isn't it? We start question the Ras dance. Why did Krishna steal the butter? Right? Why did he ask Yudhishthira to lie? Why did he ask Arjun to kill Karna when he was fixing the chariot? I know, even my younger son, he argues with me. He says Karna was cheated. So you have to take so much time to explain to them. But we all have those doubts, right? So that is the point, that the more we discuss about the Virat form, about the Virat Roop, about this creation, Sarg and Visarg, then we will be in a position to relish the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, Prabhuji Mataji, we will just keep questioning, why did Krishna do this? Why did Krishna do this? Why did he go there? Why did he cheat then? Why did he run away? So that is the whole. So with that, we will stop now. So any questions or comments? We have gone over time. Pardon me. So